Hello, clever people, and welcome to my rundown for the top 15 best films of 2017. I said it in my worst of 2017 list, and I'm gonna repeat it here. 2017 was one of the best years for film. Even though we got so many piles of garbage, we got some of the greatest films ever made this year. We had so many masterpieces that it was actually kind of shocking. So many creative films, so many just imaginative films. This was a very extremely amazing year for film. I think that we were blessed with a lot of the films that came out this year, and I am so excited to run them down and share with you what my personal top 15 are. This is always my most exciting video to shoot basically all year long. I look forward to shooting this video. It's exciting to be able to look back on a year and talk about the films that were not so great, but also being able to talk about the films that were great. And I'm so glad that I am finally going to be able to talk about the ones that I just absolutely love. Warning, there are hundreds of films out there that I still need to see from this year. There are so many. I need to see Loveless, I need to see The Square, Happy End. I still need to see Phantom Thread, which hasn't come to a theater near me, which really makes me angry. I need to see I, Tonya. I need to see so many films. So of course, by the end of next year, this list will look very different. And of course, I'm gonna rewatch certain films and like them less and like them more. It really just depends on what's going to happen. But as of right now, January 23rd, 2018, these are my top 15 best films of 2017. Before we do it, I am going to run down a few honorable mentions. Logan, Molly's Game, It Comes at Night, and Baby Driver. So coming in at number 15, we have The Shape of Water. This was a film that was going to be an honorable mention for a while, but the more I thought about it, the more I started to love it. This film is so great at combining different aspects of what makes Hollywood great. It's got a fantastical story, and it also balances having themes that relate to me personally and relate to a lot of people, while also having some really brilliant commentary. I think overall, The Shape of Water is probably one of the best, most well-rounded films from this entire year. It's great at being fantastical and imaginative and so entertaining to watch, and it's also great at having some really hard-hitting themes about feeling whole and wanting to feel happy and content with your life, and how your want to be content can get in the way of others, and how that can lead to a lot of toxic harm and hurt a lot of people. And I love the way that they displayed that, but they also displayed it using a creature and using a fantastical story while also being set in this world. It had a great setting that was so imaginative and amazing to see. It had some of this year's best performances. I know that Frances McDormand is going to win for Three Billboards, the Oscar, and I think she should, but a runner-up should definitely be Sally Hawkins, because she is incredible in this film. You also had Michael Shannon, who isn't even getting nominations, who definitely should, because he was brutal to see in this movie. He was so harsh, and all in all, The Shape of Water was just such a satisfying and beautiful film. Coming in at 14, we have The Big Sick. This is a movie that should be lower on this list, honestly. I think The Shape of Water is probably a better movie than it, but I have not had this much fun in a theater, just straight up plain fun, since I don't know how long. This movie was just so full of heart and happiness. Well, it was full of sadness as well, but the tone overall with the movie was happiness, and basically the movie has no other goals than being entertaining. That's really its only goal. It's not like a lot of other romantic comedies that try so many different aspects and so many different ways that they want to go with things and shaping things and morphing things, but really the Big Sick is just meant to show an emotional relationship and showing all the ups and downs of it, and showing how, you know, certain things come in the way, way that cause a lot of harm and can cause some odd situations to happen. And The Big Sick overall is probably the funniest film I have seen this year, and it's also just so beautiful and hilarious to watch. It's such an entertaining film, and it's a crowd pleaser, and I'm buying into their emotional manipulation by putting this so high on the list. But honestly, I think it deserves it, because this is the best version of a modern day perception of a romantic comedy that you can get, basically, and I love to rewatch it. Coming in at 13 is Dunkirk. This was a film that if you would have told me just a few months ago that it wouldn't end up in my top 5, I would be completely shocked. But Dunkirk is a film that I liked less and less the more I thought about it, or the more times that I saw it. At first I was amazed by how beautiful I thought it was and how stunning I thought it was, and just, heart pounding. But eventually the film started to wear off on me, where I could see some of its flaws and I could see how it's not really rewatchable. But if you have not seen Dunkirk yet, that's a shame, because you should have seen it in theaters. But it is a film that you should see once. I'm not sure if you should rewatch it multiple times. I'm not sure if I want to really buy the Blu-ray for the movie, but it is a movie everybody should see once, because the raw, visceral experience of survival that you get just from watching it for the first time is stunning. It's 2 hours of non-stop brutal intensity, and it is so much fun to watch. It's so involving and engrossing, and you can easily fall in love with it. It's not an easy movie, and it depicts people in the harshest of times, but it ends up having a really nice message at the end. And I think that this is probably one of Christopher Nolan's best movies, if not his most well-rounded. At 12, we have The Disaster Artist. Similar to The Big Sick, this should probably be lower on the list, but I have probably not laughed as much in the theater as I did with this one. I probably said that about The Big Sick, but I really have not laughed as much as I have during this movie. And The Big Sick easily could have been, not The Big Sick, The Disaster Artist easily could have been a film that was just making fun of The Room, which is considered the best, worst film ever made, basically. They could have just been making fun of it and calling it, it's laughing at it and poking fun at it, but they treated the story with respect. And they actually told a story that had themes of determination and passion that were actually very strong. And when the film starts to get more emotional, surprisingly enough, it worked. I was scared when the movie was going for an emotional curve, because I wasn't really sure if it was going to work with this type of film, but it really did, and I really loved the way that it showed this character, this odd character of Tommy Wiseau, in such a heartfelt way, and also in such a hilarious way. It's able to make fun of The Room while also respecting it. At 11, we have The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This film is by Yorgos Lanthimos, who has done The Lobster, which is a film I admire more than I love. A lot of people love it, and a lot of people think it's amazing, and I think it's enjoyable. I like it. I just don't think that I love it. But I watched The Killing of the Sacred Deer when it came out on rental. I was not able to see it in theaters, unfortunately, because it was not showing anywhere near me. But I was horrified by this film. Completely and totally horrified, because the situation it shows and the way that it shows them in the awkward and distilted sort of dry way that it does, it's stunning. It's horrifying. It feels like you're watching something that you're not supposed to be watching. You feel like you're going to get in trouble with it about watching it, which is just how brutal it feels, with people having to determine which person. It gets down to choosing a family member that you have to kill. It's such a brutal theme, and it's horrifying. I used that word 3 times already, and I'm probably sounding repetitive, but it's the truth. This film terrified me, but I loved the way that it did it. Its atmosphere was so strong. What it does with its characters, putting them in certain situations that feel so awkward, and I really don't know how the actors did it. The actors keeping a straight face doing all of this, I would either probably burst out laughing, because I would just be overwhelmed by terror and I'd need to laugh to loosen it, or I'd just be succumbed to how horrifying it is. But surprisingly, none of the actors did that, and it made for one of the most brutal experiences this year. I can't really recommend The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I would say if you love horror films that are intelligent and do intelligent things and aren't about jump scares, you should definitely go check this film out. At 10, we have Coco. Coco is a film that I feel like a lot of people are sweeping under the rug. It came out, it got great reviews, rightfully so, but I have not seen it on many people's top 10 or top 20 lists. It's a film that a lot of people really admired and loved, but when it comes to some of the more artsy films from this year, they prefer it to that. And I don't like that idea, because what's so great about Pixar is how they continue each year to make films that feel like they're made by an art house production studio. Not just because of how vibrant and odd they are, but just because of the amount of love and passion put into them. They could easily become, something like a DC universe where it's just cogs in a machine and they're just trying to create something that they hope will be appealing and they don't really have too much passion for it. But Coco is a great example of a film that just has so much emotion and passion in it. It does kind of have an issue with the fact that it feels the need to resolve everything, that nothing can't feel unresolved, but the way that they introduce the story in the beginning and the way that it continues to evolve and adapt as it goes on, you may think at one point that you have this movie figured out, and then you won't have it figured out. It'll take new twists and turns, and the music in it is the reason it's so great. Remember Me is a beautiful song. It's gonna win the Oscar for Best Original Song, and rightfully, well, I wouldn't say rightfully so. I think that Visions of Gideon is probably better from Call Me By Your Name, but the way that they utilize the music, especially Remember Me, it's the type of song that you listen to and you're instantly brought back to watching the movie. It's ultra entertaining, it's rich in themes, and it's such a great story about family and passion and how those two can conflict. And I think that it's an important movie for everybody to see. At 9, we have 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. When this film came out, I praised it to no end, and it's rightfully so. I think that the film is getting more love now than a lot of other films that probably deserve more love. Not a lot, but just 8 other films that you're about to see, because right now it's a front runner for Best Picture, and I think that it's deserved, because I think that this is, I've used this term already, but it's a well-rounded movie. It knows what to do. It's able to have brutal, hard-to-watch themes while also being shockingly hilarious. It has a lot of great humor in it, surprisingly, because of the situations and just because of how dark they are. This could have been ultra depressing and hard to watch, but they decide to go over the top with a lot of things and add a lot of style into it that makes it kind of funny to watch. So while you'll be terrified by the fact that you're laughing at the humor, the fact is you're laughing at the humor. And it's so great how Martin McDonagh is the director's name, how he was able to do that. And add to that, this year's best ensemble cast and some of the best performances this year. 2 people from this film are going to win Oscars, Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell. Both of them will have an Oscar by the time Oscars show, which I believe is in February. It's just a fact, because both of them completely dedicated to this movie. And with Frances McDormand's performance being as incredible as it is and giving her as much screen time as she is given, she should be the reason this movie works, and she's a big reason it does, but the other performances are not to be undermined because they help it work just as well. At 8, we have Good Time. So, Good Time was a film made by A24 that I was looking forward to because it's A24 and I'm excited for all A24 releases. But I was intrigued by this movie because it didn't have your normal A24 vibe. The A24 films that I love are the natural human ones, like Moonlight, like The Florida Project. Those are the ones that I find most dear to me, and they do make some more gritty films like The Killing of a Sacred Deer, but there are other examples that didn't work so well with me, but Good Time is the best I've ever seen that type of film by A24 work. This is an A24 film through and through. It would never be made by anybody else, and no other distributors would ever release it wide enough to be shown in theaters across the nation, but A24 has some serious balls to be able to do that, because this film is unflinching. It depicts nightlife so well from what I've heard. I don't know about people who are actually, living in situations like that, but from what I can tell, they depicted it so well. But what this film does better than Dunkirk, surprisingly, is just be such a visceral and intense experience. From the moment it starts, it has this type of electronic music that makes you feel uncomfortable. And the thing is, that electronic score continues throughout. You never want to watch it on your own because it's hard to listen to, but in the film context, it works so well. And similar to Dunkirk, it's intense throughout, non-stop, and then at the end, it kind of has a really strong message. In Dunkirk, it's one of hope, and Good Time, it's the opposite. This is a pessimistic movie that's harsh and true about reality, but it does it in a way that is truly exceptional. This film is not getting any awards recognition, but it definitely should. It should be a frontrunner for Best Picture right now, because it is a film that will be remembered and will be continued to be shown by millions of people. Millions of people will want to share this movie for the rest of a long time because it's so odd, but it works so well. Alright, these next 7 are all 9 out of 10s or higher. These are the movies that really stuck out to me for this year that I think are truly exceptional, and all of them I believe will end up classics. And the first of those is The Florida Project. This was a film I was looking forward to, and I had heard a lot of good things about. The director did Tangerine, which I had heard was good, but I hadn't seen it. But I got to see The Florida Project, luckily, and it's hard to describe exactly how beautiful this movie is. It shows little kids, and the thing is, one of the biggest rules in Hollywood are to never work with animals or little kids, and especially focus entirely on little kids and their lives. But this movie follows a group of 7-year-olds, yet never once does the dialogue ever feel like it's not what a 7-year-old would say. And at the same time, it's not being a kid's movie. This is an adult movie in every sense of the word. There's nothing that's a kid movie about this. And it's incredible what the director was able to get out of the child performances, because they're all exceptional, but what he was able to achieve just in terms of human emotion was great. It examines the human condition and just the want to live, and the how being in awful situations like that, sometimes it's an uncertainty, yet it's not told in your typical way of seeing it through adults, because you've seen it through adults multiple times before, and you've had hard-hitting dramas like that before, but it's shown from the kid's perspective, and it's beautiful. The ending kind of turned me off, and that's a big controversy right now, and I'm sure there will be a group of people that are happy that I said that, and a group of people that are angry at the fact that it turned me off, but the ending was a little bit odd in my opinion. I get what they were trying to do, but it didn't work for me, but the rest of the film is honestly near flawless. Coming in at number 6, we have Get Out. I was confident for a long time that this would be my number 1 film of the year, and what a great year it's been that this is now number 6, but Get Out was terrifying. It wasn't the most terrifying film this year, but I think again, 4th time I'm using this term, I think it's the most well-rounded film of this year, and I'm not going to use it once again, I promise. It's just the fact that this film was incredible. It was amazing. It was terrifying, it was scary, and it was also funny, and it was also, in terms of socially commentary, extremely relevant, and it was also extremely entertaining, and it was also the type of movie where your brain is constantly trying to guess what's going on, and it's unpredictable, and it goes in new ways that films like this have been made, but they haven't really gone on this deep of a level. And the fact that Jordan Peele had such a creative vision and then implemented that creative vision and added layers layers upon layers of great aspects, of humor, of drama, of comedy, of just everything that a film can be. This is the type of film that I would love to make, but I could never make. And I don't think anyone other than Jordan Peele could make a film like this. And this is a first-time director we're talking about. He made a film that is so memorable that you can rewatch multiple times and see new things through it. It's just such a perfectly well-rounded movie that hits on all aspects, that can appeal to basically every single person. There's a reason that it had 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's because it's hard to dislike this movie, and I couldn't see anybody disliking it. I could never understand that. Coming in at number 5, we have Lady Bird. It's a film that did get better with rewatches. The more times you see it, the more you begin to love it. And maybe that's just the way I saw it, because I know a lot of people that after seeing it the first time, they just loved it through and through. But I think that Lady Bird is, other than the Florida Project, probably the most human movie this year. It's just so natural, and the way that it's edited and the way that it's constructed is extremely unpretentious. This is the type of film that gets people passionate about film, because they see something like this and it's able to relate to normal audiences, yet at the same time you're able to see that films can be a little deeper than just pure entertainment. If I was a teenager and I had never been into film and I went and I saw Lady Bird, I would probably love it, and that would probably help me launch a passion into cinema. And because of that, I've been trying to show it to as many of my friends as possible, and that will become easier when the Blu-ray is out. But this is a movie that should be spread. It's a movie that a lot of people should see, because it's funny and it's heartfelt, and overall it's a nice movie to come out around now. Again, there's a reason that it had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and dropped down to 99 for some reason, even though the one negative review was a B-, which is positive. That's a whole nother story though. There's a reason that so many people love it, because it's just a type of film that motivates people to make films, and it's the type of film people can love. Coming in at number 4, we have Blade Runner 2049. The first time I saw this movie, I was so extremely tired, but at the same time, I was amazed by it. And I went to go see it again as soon as I could, and after seeing it again, I could confirm the fact that it was a masterpiece. It's a movie that's beyond words, really. It's slow moving. I think it's almost 3 hours, but it's deservedly so. And, the fact that it's failing at the box office kind of proves how great it is. The fact that it doesn't appeal to wide audiences, that it's slow-paced and brooding and hard, but the way that the film examines the want to be something else, and just really how beautiful it is in so many scenes. It's a film that can be harsh and beautiful at the same time, especially in the last scene where Ryan Gosling, I can't really say anything without spoiling it, but he lies down and Harrison Ford is able to go and do something. I'm not going to say what those things are, but the way that scenes like that are just set up are so beautiful. This is one of the strongest atmospheres I've ever seen in a film. Both times I saw it, I was just as wrapped up into it, maybe the second time even more, and I can't wait to continue to watch this film. It is a film, I said that about, I said most films on this list are destined to become a classic, but if any film is destined to become a staple of nerd culture, I think it's Blade Runner 2049. You will not stop hearing about this film for a very long time. People will continue to watch it and continue to love it, because I've heard so many people who watched it for the first time on Blu-ray and said, dang, I wish I could have seen it in the theater. It's a theater experience, but it's not like it's a film that you can't watch on Blu-ray and still be amazed by. Alright, we're down to the top 3 here. At number 3, we have A Ghost Story. This is a film that should be lower, and the only reason that I put it as high as I do is the fact that it is just so beautiful and personal to me. There are a lot of really personal messages in here about your use of time and what you do using your time, and how that goes past you and how that doesn't really reflect on who you are, and it's more about the things that you did to other people. And it's a film that has a It's weird because it's able to be so optimistic about living and life while also being so pessimistic about so many different things. It's not an easy film. It revolted a lot of people, and a lot of people don't love it just because it's not really your typical film. It doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. It's short, so it's not like it's long like Blade Runner, but it's very, very slow paced, but it's deliberate. And it was the type of film that just completely shocked me. It's the type of film that after you see it, you sort of just sit there and stare at your TV screen and consider it for about 20 minutes and just digest what you saw, because it's really its own movie, and it would have never received any recognition awards wise, but I think that it should have, and it's the best A24 film this year. It's weird how many A24 releases are on here, with this and The Florida Project and Lady Bird and The Killing of a Sacred Deer and Good Time and The Disaster Artist. That's 6 on my top 15 that belong to A24, and there's a good reason why this studio is so great. Coming in at number 2 is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Would Star Wars even be in the top 10 if this was based on the best films this year? No, but this is my personal favorites list. This is my personal best list. And all I can say is that Star Wars: The Last Jedi was one of the most entertaining films I've ever seen. It was so great at doing different things in the universe while also following the same structure, so it still feels, like a Star Wars movie, but it ventures out and does so many different things. It goes to new places and new heights. It doesn't necessarily achieve all of those too well. I don't hate the Canto Bight scenes like a lot of people do. I think that they're fine. And the first hour can be a little hard to become involved in, but there is certain fan service in here that I absolutely loved. But just from the throne room scene, which was absolutely brilliant, from there on out, the film just continued to amaze me with how many awesome things there were in it. It's an awesome movie, and there's no better word to describe it. I just uploaded my review for this one, so it's not going to come as a surprise for anybody that my number 1 of the year was Call Me By Your Name. I had expectations that were insanely high going in, and like I said in my review, those expectations, they were exceeded. It's weird to say that because when you have expectations of a film entering your top 20, usually it disappoints, but this entered my top 12 of all time, not just of this year, obviously, but of all time. This film was beautiful. It was stunning. It was every single word, every single positive word in the English dictionary you can put towards this film. It's tragic. The final shot is the most tragic shot I've ever seen in film. It's also beautiful. It's atmospheric. It's everything that I want a film to be. And I just shot my review for this, so I'm gonna refrain from saying too many things because I'll feel repetitive. But I can honestly say that this is one of the best films of the year, some of the greatest performances of the year, especially the scene with Michael Stolberg. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I'm doing him an injustice if I'm saying it wrong, but him and Timothée Chalamet, father and son, having a conversation about love and what it means to fall in love and how special the feeling of love is, and then how it changes in the next scene, the epilogue really of the movie. And this was a film that touched me to my core, and it emotionally shook me, and I cannot praise this film enough. Go see Call Me By Your Name. Go see every film on this list, but if you're going to see one, go see Call Me By Your Name. The songs in it are stunning. Whenever I hear Visions of Gideon or Mystery of Love, I'm instantly brought back to the movie. The green colors, the beauty, everything about this. Words can't fully describe how I feel about Call Me By Your Name, which is why it is number 1. Well, that's it. I've done my most anticipated, my worst, and now my best. And tomorrow, while I'm shooting this, I'm sure it'll come out after, but tomorrow, Oscar nominations are announced, and of course I'm going to be having an Oscar video, so get excited for that. But that concludes my top 15 best of the year. Well, what are some of your favorites films of the year? Comment in the comment section below, and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.